Oh, I forgot his name. Did you get good?
Not gonna tell the girls. I mean, she was Untitled. No, Dorina.
Was telling Doreen. I can't get any of the neighbors. It's a whole different mindset now that it was years ago.
Ready? Yeah. Welcome one and all to the July 28th installment of the UIDRB. Our next scheduled meeting will be Thursday, August 25th, 2022, in a month. So shall I swear you in?
Yes,
You swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you very much. I believe we want to call the roll first?
Yep.
Please do.
Mr. Fleming? Oh, right, he's gonna be 15 minutes late. Mr. Grado?
Here.
Ms. Gunzelman? Here. Ms. Jones will be absent today. Mr. Reeves?
Here.
Mr. Szymanski?
Present.
And new member, Mr. Suplet.
Here.
Thank you. And we'll go on, do we have anyone for public forum? Okay, we'll go ahead and move to our next agenda item. We wanted to recognize and thank Doreen Sauer. Kevin, could you stand, could you come to the front, Doreen? Could you come?
I guess.
Okay.
Like, it seems to me that Frank got away with less than having.
Well, we are not smaller, but we wanted to thank you for 30+ years of service. Jane, hearing right here. And then Kevin wanted to present.
And for everyone to know, Kevin, you are our intern for the area.
Yeah, right.
Hey, look at me now. So, Martin Verdillis was supposed to do this. He had a family emergency. And I'm sorry, I'm not dressed up. I dressed down.
Because it was a special.
All right. This is a statement, a citation of recognition. It's one of the things that Mayor gets to do. And so I'm going to read most of this. I'll paraphrase it a little bit, but again, a citation of recognition. Whereas Doreen Sauer, a dedicated educator, author of a story and representing the University Area Commission, was first appointed to this board in 1992. Served that area. She was, whereas Ms. Sauer was one of the core community leadership that led the development of the university, then called UIDRB. Recognizing the need for design review at a time when development pressures were threatening the district. And whereas Ms. Sauer as a board member has for years demonstrated through ardent neighborhood advocacy in a way that is productive and civil. She has a
There are at least 2 people.
And I just want to put out stand around, be able to so civil doing. Whereas Ms. Sauer, as a board member and a University Area Commission chair, was a crucial lead in developing the district plan, which provides policy basis and design guidelines. And whereas Ms. Sauer, as a board member, community leader, and historian, always represented historic preservation and a recognition of history. And whereas Ms. Sauer, who has earned the admiration and respect of her colleagues, former and present university and past review board members, planning divisions, office staff, and the residents of the university area by whom she will be true. Whereas, on behalf of the citizens of the city of Columbus, I am commending Doreen Sauer, who has dedicated more than 30 years to public service with this board. Now therefore, I, Mayor, urge all members of our community to join the recognition of this significant occasion and the achievements of others. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. So she'll be here as a guest tonight and then,
Actually, I'm leaving to a meeting. with
and
city
she's
attorney.
leaving. And Tim is our new, member, in Doreen's steps. So, Tim, did you want to say?
I was just wanted to acknowledge what a bad trade I have to read. But the only mitigating factor is that we've worked closely on the area commission and had the chance to, everyone knows how much Doreen knows. But working closely, you find out how much she cares about the city and the incredible energy. And I'll try to use that example.
I was sure that when Kevin read a positive and civil transfer of something, no, I'm never civil, but thank you. I thought that's when the eye roll would start. And just, again, thank you. This has just been really a pleasure. I think at the last, when we said goodbye to Frank, it was the first time Belkis realized that actually the review board started before 1992.
Yeah.
The interim review board started in 1989. So we've been at this a long time. My husband du jour whenever I needed to say anything. And it did start with us going to Cincinnati to find the environmental quality district.
Yeah.
And bringing it back to the city and saying, here's the model, so, yeah. It's a baby. I don't know what I'm gonna do on Thursday nights. I'll bowl or something. But it's,
Columbus Neighborhoods is on. Oh, that's later though.
but I want you to know is that Tim and I are demonstrating the peaceful transfer of power. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thanks, Doreen.
I'll be here to protest something.
Certainly. So has everyone had an opportunity to review the meeting minutes from last month? That were here, yes? Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
I'll second that.
Mr. Greto,
Yes.
Ms. Gunkelman,
Yes.
Mr. Reeves,
Yes.
Mr. Samansky,
Yes.
Mr. Sublett.
Yes.
Thank you, that carries.
I believe it's time to move on to the agenda, yes?
Yes.
So we will begin tonight with UID 21-06-008, 50 East 7th Avenue.
So 50 East 7th Avenue is a 0.84 acre site with existing two-story apartment buildings, bounded by East 7th Avenue to the south, a church to the west, an alley to the north, and section alley to the east. The site is located within the Wyman Park Community Reinvestment Area, which requires that 20% of the residential units be affordable in order to receive a 15-year tax abatement. These affordability requirements can be reduced through various mechanisms, including payments to a local community development corporation. The applicant is proposing to demolish the existing apartment structures and construct a 6-story, 125-unit, 200-bed apartment building. The project will include 2nd-story connected patios with stairs leading to the public sidewalk on the south elevation, as well as a 2nd-floor terrace on the north elevation. Exterior materials include brick, fiber cement block siding and trim, fiber cement panel siding, aluminum railings, painted metal wood trellis, bronze vinyl windows, and metal canopies. In October 2021, the applicant received a recommendation to rezone the property and several council variances. Today, the applicant is seeking approval for the proposal's design. The applicant last came before the board in May 2022 for review of the conceptual design, where the board recommended that the south elevation include garage grill openings that are creatively treated, to soften the edge of the lower brick wall area and to perforate it, incorporate railings on the brick stair riser, and to replace the panel piece over the western entrance with glazing for added transparency. In response to board comments, the applicant updated the design, which includes the following. So overall, they further developed the site with courtyard landscaping plans and incorporated exterior lighting, increased the typical unit window height from 5 feet to 6 feet. On the south elevation, they replaced the panel piece over the main entrance glazing, They added a metal awning over the secondary entrance and railings on the brick stair riser. They added a ramp and stairs with railings on the main entrance and added a darker hue brick color and garage ventilation louvers into the masonry facade. On the north elevation, they added a darker hue brick on the masonry wall along the terrace faces, added a darker hue brick color at the parking garage entrance, added garage ventilation louvers into the masonry facade, adjusted the landscaping to add additional parking, and on the east and west elevations, they removed metal awnings over the egress stair doors and added stairs with railings on the west entrance. And so their submitted materials include a unit matrix, site plan, landscape plans, renderings, material board, courtyard material designs, lighting plans, floor plans, roof plan, elevations, sections, material details, door schedule and details, and window schedule and details. And their package is 83 pages long, so I'm not going to go through all of it. I'll let the applicant guide us along through that, but you'll see that the key updates are on the elevations, and then the very first 2 pages of their package includes those landscape planting schedules and details, as well as their lighting plans. And so after staff review, the design is generally consistent with the recommendations of the University District Plan. The plan recommends lower intensity residential uses for this site with a minimum of 2 parking spaces per unit. The plan recommends that the primary facade of ground level multifamily buildings include entrances, stoops, porches, and balconies to contribute to street activity, that building materials be used to provide a visual interest and texture to the building, and that taller buildings include stepbacks on upper stories to provide relief to the streetscape. The plan also states that durable materials be used, that developments enhance pedestrian connectivity, and that landscaping and street trees be provided to enhance structures, create shade, and provide environmental benefits. Staff generally supports the project as the design features are consistent with plan design guidelines and largely mitigate the increased density on the site. These features include balconies and programmed terraces to address East 7th Avenue, a second entrance to and pedestrian connection from East 7th Avenue, stepbacks, and perimeter landscaping. As the design is generally consistent with plan design guidelines, staff recommends approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Is the applicant present?
Yes.
Thank you again for the opportunity.
We got to swear you in.
Oh, okay.
Would you please, if you're going to speak, raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Yes.
Proceed.
Thank you. My name is Joseph Patrick. I'm with Peerless Development. We're the owners of the development. And I'm here with Carl Winstead and Logan Luzader from Klein Associates, our architectural team. Thank you again for the opportunity to come back to present this to you, the project, and to seek our certificate of appropriateness today. To save a little bit of time and not wanting to go through all 83 pages of the packet that we've sent through, Belkis did a very thorough job and a great job of kind of itemizing the changes that we've made based on the recommendations from our last review here a few months ago. So I think probably the easiest thing to do is first open it up to questions and comments from the committee, and we'd be happy to kind of walk through some of the renderings, which are probably easier to illustrate some of the, some of those items unless there's specific details. I know Mr. Keone was always interested in kind of talking through some of the window details and our flashing details and things along those lines. And we're happy to look at any of those in detail with you as well, if you'd like. So we just in short, I feel that we've, made a lot of great progress with input from the committee over the last 6-8 months. And, we hope that we've gotten to the point where everybody, feels that, at least happy with the design and the intention and the direction of it. And like any good design, there's never really a final solution to it. There's just different options. So hopefully we've kind of hit upon one that is agreeable for the group. But we'd love to open it up for your team's comments or questions.
Anyone like to get the ball rolling? On my side of the table?
I'll start. I didn't see anywhere in the packet how many parking spaces were being provided.
77. So which is, was a result of one of the variances that we had submitted and was approved previously.
And you have 125.
125 units.
Beds, so it's about half.
Yes, yes.
No question?
I mean, I would say that the improvements at the leasing entrance and what we talked about with the stairwell with opening up with the metal railing versus the brick that kind of close it off. And then the treatment of the facade on the courtyard with the Morex and on the piers and the landscaping, I think were all good improvements. I think significantly improved in my mind from what was before on that seventh elevation. I doubt the landscaping will look like that from day one, but you
Not
know,
day one,
you
but
know,
eventually, if it stays
but
the same,
I
but I think
think-
it's much rain.
I think the use of the different brick there, the louvers on not everywhere across and breaking it up. I personally think that mostly the entrance, I think that's a huge improvement from where it was before. It's clear that it's a commercial entrance. The glass is way better there and simplified. So I personally like the changes.
It's nice to get opinions. Sometimes you get too close to the projects and you can't see some of the, what might be simple suggestions that come from somebody who's looking at it on a little more of a periphery. And so comments like that are always well received, and I think right on.
So I've got a question, are there power lines on your side of the street? There are.
There are today.
Are they going underground?
They are going underground as part of the process. We're going to be eliminating a number of poles and overhead.
So is all the overhead going underground or relocated or some remain?
All of the lighting circuits are on the north side of Seventh Avenue, or nothing obviously on the south side, which is on the Kroger side. But yeah, I believe all of the poles and overhead lighting circuits are going underground on our side. So we'll significantly clean that side of the street up and in the alley
too.
Yeah.
Okay.
As well.
So the reason I asked, because looking at your page, I guess it's page 11. So this is a kind of a silly comment, but I looked at your plant list and I think you should at least consider putting in some large shade trees because you've got, I mean, your view is effectively a parking lot for Kroger. So right now you've got trees that are basically centered on the courtyard. So what I'm telling you what to do, just think about it, is either put a tree on either side that kind of frames that view out or block the whole thing off. So if you're on the deck, you've got kind of this is an eventual thing. It's going to take years for the trees to grow, but you basically have kind of a green wall that's kind of protecting you from some of this kind of a noisy street a little bit, and you just got a parking lot across the street. So that's just for your consideration. So I would consider putting a larger shade tree, especially if the utilities are going underground. The second thing is on your details. So that sheet SD2, I think, your segmental block planter wall. I don't see any drainage in that. So some of the other ones make note of that, but I don't see any drain tile in that at all. So that,
There absolutely be drains in every planter.
okay.
Okay. Correct.
Which came from a coordination meeting earlier today with our plumbing engineers to talk all about drainage in the courtyards.
Okay, that's all I had.
Absolutely.
Pasquale?
Yeah, could we see the north, that,
The back.
yeah. Has there been any further interaction with the residents on Euclid regarding?
We've sent this same packet on to the Wineland Park Civic Association for their review. And we've offered to kind of give them a presentation. We have not been able to do that for the entire committee. They obviously had some challenges there with some of the staff and some personal issues that were going on, unfortunately. But they do have, this has been shared with the entire committee. So they do have the opportunity to see it. And we've offered to give them a full presentation. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, we haven't been able to get to them yet, though.
I never knew you.
Well, I have been observing them, so I'm going to risk asking a question that I acknowledge is not relevant to the certificate of appropriateness, but you announced it in May, and I want to just quickly get an update and dismiss the issue. You mentioned that there was a potential that you would be taking the buyout option on the affordable component.
Yes.
You just have a very quick update.
It hasn't been finalized, but at this point, that is our current intention to seek the buyout option for in lieu of providing the affordable housing.
Okay, thank you for that update.
Any other comments?
I have a question. When you buy out, where does that money go to?
That's a good question. I'm not 100% sure of which entity with the city or the state. And actually, I was texting with one of my folks back in my office. It's a formal agreement that you enter with the city, which, let's see, I apologize for having to do this. Yes, CRA development agreement. A CRA developer agreement is entered into with the city of Columbus and the developer. So the funds are paid to the city of Columbus. Now, I'm not sure how they are, dog-eared at that point to fall into an affordable housing, bucket, if you will. I'm not sure what that formal process is with the city of Columbus. I'm happy to.
Typically with CRA agreements, so that goes into an affordable housing fund that's managed by the city. And then those funds are typically given to community development organizations, such as Homeport or Homes on the Hill, through grants, like yearly grant programs. And so that way those funds are sort of going from maybe a more private, like for-profit developer through the city and then to a nonprofit affordable housing developer. That's one way that those funds could be channeled. And then that developer could do multifamily housing with those dollars or single-family housing, just depending on what their specialty is.
So the housing wouldn't necessarily directly benefit our community. It could be used in other geographies.
I'm not 100% certain of what the geographical restrictions might be. I just know that generally speaking, from developer to developer, that's how the funds move on occasion.
Mhm.
So, and I'm not sure if there's other ways that those dollars are used. That's just one stream that I know of.
Okay, thank you.
If I can, it's my understanding that there is not a geographical limitation to the area.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know that.
Thank you for the assistance. I'm not sure.
Are there any other questions or comments? The one thing I failed to ask, is there anyone from the public that wishes to speak to this case tonight? No? Okay. Anyone willing to make a motion? I believe they're looking for a vote tonight, are they not?
They are.
I move to accept the proposal as submitted.
Second.
Brian, second.
All right, Mr. Fleming? Oh, he's still not here. Sorry. Mr. Grado?
Here. Yeah, here. Yes.
All right, Ms. Gunselman?
Yes.
Mr. Reeves?
Yes.
Mr. Samansky?
Yes.
Mr. Sokolow?
It was my intention, if it's not needed for a quorum, since I'm coming into this discussion at this late time to abstain.
To abstain? Yeah, we still have a quorum, so that's fine. So you abstain and that passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Naomi. You guys, see you.
Right, thanks.
That brings us to UID 22-07-004, 2283 North High Street.
Yes.
Exterior alterations.
Yes. This one, so this is another one of the PD Square homes. This is the last one of the bunch. So 2283 North High Street is a contributing brick structure built in 1905 and is a part of the PD Square development. The applicant is seeking approval for the following exterior modifications, and that's to replace existing patio hardscape and wrought iron fence like for like, refinish the door and transom on the east and north elevations, replace the doors on the west elevation with thermotrue steel wood edge doors, refinish existing windows on the east elevation, replace windows on the remaining elevation using vinyl silver lined V3 white double hung windows, clean and tuck point the existing masonry, exterior painting on all elevations, replace existing siding on the existing west elevation addition, install a new pipe columns and footings at the west elevation for the very entrance, rebuild the west elevation stoop and stairs with composite wood decking and railing. So per the existing preservation easement, the applicant has consulted with Columbus Landmarks and provided a letter outlining Columbus Landmarks comments. For this project, it drafts the letter notes that the proposed doors are acceptable, that the windows, especially those on the east elevation, should be maintained and repaired, that some existing doors may require replacement of only the existing glass with tempered glass, and that the proposed exterior painting is supported. Columbus Landmarks does not support the painting of any unpainted brick. Submitted materials include a site plan, hardscape plan, elevations, paint selections, and material cut sheets. And so for their materials, so this is a letter that we've all seen before with previous cases. This is the site plan. So we're talking about the third house from the corner. This is their hardscape plan. So this is just noting the front patio area that they have, and they're going to be looking to replace the materials out on that patio. This is pretty much the same, saying the same thing. Here are their elevations, just noting, you know, the different touch points of the work. And you'll note here on the rear elevation, there currently exists this vestibule, I'll say. And so that's not safe. So they want to take that off and then in its place create proper, you know, footings and landings for the fire escape that's back there. But this shows the paint selections as well. And then again, photos of the property as it exists today. And then there's some supplemental materials back here. This is just talking about the quotes and the permissions to refinish the existing original windows on the front elevation. So that just talks through that. And then we have their material cut sheets. So after review, the proposal is generally consistent with the recommendations of the University District Plan. The plan recommends that high quality and durable materials be used, that original windows and doors be preserved, and that when replacement is necessary, the original design and proportion should be maintained. The plan also recommends that public, semi-public, and private spaces should be demarcated clearly through the use of landscape walls, fences, gates, pavement treatment, signs, and other methods to denote boundaries and or buffers. As the application is generally consistent with plan guidelines, staff recommends approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you two be so kind as to raise your right hand? Do you swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. Thank you so much. Do you have any things you'd like to add to the?
Just back to the final building.
Okay.
There are some changes, it's that's what it's been person.
Okay. Does anyone on our side of the table have any questions or comments? This is very similar to.
I guess just for clarification, the items that were in the letter that they said not to do, they're following those recommendations.
So yes.
The painting.
Yeah, the building's already painted now, so they're just using new colors. And then Landmark stated that they prefer that the windows on all the facades be replaced. But if they couldn't do that at minimum, have that front facade, make sure that those original windows are preserved. And the applicant's chosen to do the minimum part where just the front windows are being preserved and fixed. And then the other facades will have those new vinyl windows that match the other window selections for all the other houses. So there will be that consistency there.
Before we take any further action, I believe we have someone that here tonight to speak. Please join us. I think right there. Did you get sworn in earlier? Oh, do you raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you so much.
Sure. So just wanted to, Susan Keeney with Columbus Landmarks. And the reason that I'm here is because I didn't realize this is going to be an agenda item today. And thank you, Douglas, for sending that agenda and the materials. As I looked through the drawings for this particular building, 2283, I noticed that there was just a very general comment about the per our recommendations that the owner has reached out to various vendors regarding the finishing of the existing windows. And we really wanted something stronger to that. That's not a commitment. So we did a lot of phone calls this morning with the owner and with architect back and forth to get some of that language changed and so that it is a commitment to do those windows. We will not approve this drawing unless there's a commitment to save those existing windows. And we also want to make sure that in the future, if anything comes up on the site that since we're 50% of the preservation agreement, that there's communication with us, let us know, and we can work something out. But if you don't tell us, we don't. So we want that, yes, we would love all the windows, but, mainly the front windows we would like repaired, and there is an estimate for those to be done.
So that language has been added to the,
Yeah, so I'll zoom in here. This comment on the front elevation now says the owner has selected Main Street Construction for restoring the existing wood windows. And the agreement with Main Street Construction, I believe, is it a quote or?
It's a quote that the owner has stamped approved,
Okay,
and then they sent out the letter.
yeah, so this is the owner saying that this is fine. And then this is the Main Street Construction agreement and quote. So that goes through, front dormer south, front dormer north. So it goes through each window on the front and what they intend on doing. And that it's in place.
thank you.
Just a comment for sort of, I guess. Or the drawing indicates that the windows on the front are being restored. And I think from my perspective, I guess speaking behalf of the board, as long as the drawings of the windows, the existing windows were to be restored, I think that's adequate to assure the board that that's the direction the owner's going to take. I appreciate the owner's gone above and beyond. They've provided the price proposal and contract, but it's the drawing that we hold the applicant to. So if the drawing says the owner is going to do something, that's what we're going to enforce when the project is complete. So, thank you for going above.
Any other comments or questions from the board?
And it looks good to me.
Do you have a motion? Thank you.
I move that we approve the application submitted.
I second.
Thank you. Mr. Fleming,
Yes.
Mr. Grado,
Yes.
Ms. Gunzelman,
Yes.
Mr. Reed,
Yep.
Mr. Samansky.
Yes.
Mr. Suplet.
Yes.
Great, thank you, it passes.
Here.
Thank you, guys.
Which moves us quickly to UID 21-10-008, 2160 North High Street, 2180, 2194, 915 Norwich, and 25 East Norwich.
Yes. So this site is located at the block bounded by North High Street to the west, East Norwich Avenue to the north, Pearl Alley to the east, and Lane Avenue to the south, with the exception of a lot on the corner of High and Norwich. 5 buildings are existing on the site, 4 of which are contributing buildings built between 1900 and 1915. Staff notes that the 4 existing contributing buildings are excellent examples of early 20th century mixed-use design and are located on one of the few historic blocks that remain intact on High Street. The existing 5 buildings include a CVS pharmacy, 2 brick contributing mixed-use courtyard buildings known as Alhambra Court, 1 contributing 2-story apartment building, and 1 contributing single-family home. Today, the applicant is seeking feedback on a conceptual proposal to demolish all the site's existing structures and construct a new mixed-use building and public plaza. Specifically, the applicant would like the board's feedback on the massing and updated parking in anticipation of a future recommendation request on variances. The applicant anticipates that variances for height, parking, and first-floor residential use will be needed at a later date. The building will be 15 stories containing 215 units and 706 beds and a 287 space below grade parking garage with a ratio of 0.4 spaces per bed. The building will step down from 15 to 14 stories at the corner of Lane and High. The development will then step down to 7, 6, 3, and 2 stories moving north. Floor 1 includes a parking garage access from Pearl Alley, commercial lobby and leasing space, and residential units off of East Norwich Avenue. Floors 2 through 14 contain residential units and amenity spaces, with floor 15 serving as an amenity penthouse. Residential typologies include townhomes and studios up through 5-bedroom units. The site will include a landscape public plaza at the northwest corner, accessed from both North Bay Street and East Norwich Avenue, as well as street trees and wide pedestrian space at the corner of Lane and High. The applicant last came before the board in June 2022. The board appreciated the stepping down of the building and inclusion of plaza space. Members recommended that the applicant explore shifting the plaza to the corner of Lane and High and preserving the two-story brick apartments on East Norwich. Members expressed concern that retail may not survive in the back of the plaza and that the plaza cannot support trees with parking underneath. Some members expressed concern with the parking ratio, and others were supportive so long as provisions for alternative transportation were made. Lastly, members noted that the treatment of the building moving east to west, as well as the parking garage facade, will need to appropriately address the residential neighborhood. Overall, members stated that the proposal is moving in the right direction and that there remains opportunity to create a bigger, forward-thinking design statement that honors the site's history and location as a neighborhood gateway. So in response to the board feedback from the June meeting, the applicant reduced the commercial square footage near the rear of the plaza space, added at-grade parking along Pearl Alley, increasing the parking ratio from 0.32 to 0.40 spaces per bed, and included site diagrams reflecting the site's location, scale, history, and public open space. The submitted conceptual materials include a vicinity map, existing building map, site plan, floor plan, site diagram, west elevation, perspective views, and the context view. And once this goes away, we'll go through the materials. So this is fairly similar with the context photo here and their site plan. These are the floor plans. And the change that you can see here is that in the rear of this retail space, they have some added surface parking spaces here. So you can see that shift. And then otherwise, very similar to the previous meetings with these floor plans. And then again, we have, this is new, this site diagram just showing the height and history with the year built and public open space as it relates to the site versus the rest of the neighborhood. And then here's a street elevation, some other views and renderings. And then there are some additional pages that are new. These were not a part of my staff report. I received these like I believe 2 days ago, but I did want to include them in case the board did want to provide some preliminary feedback. But these include some just updated elevations here, and then some updated renderings just showing, you know, the materiality of things, some color. But again, the same, you know, massing and height and all of that as the other materials. So after review, the University District Plan recommends the site for regional mixed use, which recommends adaptive reuse and or expansion of contributing buildings, a minimum FAR of 1, max height of 72 feet, and parking at a rate of 3.75 spaces per bed for residential uses. The plan's design guidelines recommend preservation and rehabilitation of existing buildings, that new construction preserve and enhance the unique design characteristics of the district, that High Street and Lane Avenue continue as mixed-use corridors with the densest development, and that the design of new construction be compatible with nearby contributing buildings and surrounding streetscape. Furthermore, the plan recommends that impacts of a new building's height and mass be mitigated through stepbacks and upper stories, and that additional space for pedestrians adjacent to the public sidewalk be provided. Lastly, the plan recommends that the use of high-quality durable materials, inclusion of plazas, seating, and other pedestrian amenities, and that landscaping and street trees be provided. Planning staff generally supports the proposal. Given the plan's recommendations of the preservation and rehabilitation of existing buildings, staff continues to recommend that the applicant include an element of preservation and rehabilitation on the site. Planning staff does recognize the elements of the proposal that are consistent with plan guidelines and work to mitigate the increased height at Lane and High. And these include stepping the building down north to fit within the scale of the neighborhood, the mix of uses along High Street and Lane Avenue, tall, transparent first floor elevations, the inclusion of street trees and landscaping, the wide pedestrian space at Lane and High, and the public plaza. And as the proposal develops, staff recommends a creative screening treatment of the parking garage, additional bicycle parking beyond code requirements, and that high quality durable materials be used. Staff notes that upon a future request for action, additional materials including the dimension and to scale site plan, building elevations, floor plans, landscaping details, and exterior material details and cut sheets will be needed to review for consistency with plan recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you. Now for the fun part, would you, oh, you're gonna speak, raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. Please proceed.
Thank you. Jill Tangeman, Voorhees Sanderson. Please, nice to see all of you again. Thank you for your time today. I'm gonna let Bhakti talk through the details of the design. I did want to just talk for a second about procedurally a couple of things. Obviously, we're working through the conceptual plans with you now, and hopefully we'll reach a point of approval at some point on those. We have submitted the application for the variances that we know of through council variance application. We filed that on Monday, probably has not made its way to you yet. So we'll probably be back here next month to ask for a formal recommendation on those as we simultaneously go through the UAC process on those as well. In those, we've asked for 3 variances, which are the first floor residential use, and then parking and height. So it hasn't really changed from what we've told you all along, that we expected those were going to be coming forward. So I think at a minimum, we'll see you next month on those particular issues to get your thoughts on the recommendation on the variances. Certainly, if you have thoughts about those variances today and something that you want to see or have additional information that we should need to take back before next month, please let us know. So I will now turn it over to Bhakti and let her give you a little update on the designs.
Thanks, Jill. Good evening, everyone. Good to see you all again. So Marcus did a really good job of kind of doing a synopsis on the changes that we made, but I just wanted to go through and highlight those again. Based on our discussion last month, talking about the plaza piece, I think we had some discussions or some ideas of, where the plaza was located. And we feel really strongly about leaving it where it was. We really wanted to be more of a pocket park kind of a space, not really right up on High Street or Lane Avenue. And so that is very intentional. It is closer to sort of the lower scale buildings. There's a 3-story and the 2-story. There's a residential aspect to it. There's retail that runs along into the depth of the corridor. And so we feel that lends itself to a really nicer, more neighborhood feeling courtyard space. And our plan is obviously to develop that a little bit more and show you how we plan to activate the space as well. But we did want to keep that where it was because we do feel like that is the best space for that kind of a pocket park. A little bit quieter space than what you might expect along High Street and Lane Avenue. We have still maintained kind of that wider sidewalk public space along Lane Avenue with the intent that that kind of gives you some relief for the building and the corner itself from that intersection as well as Lane Avenue. The other change that we made on this footprint, one of the concerns or questions we had last time was about the parking ratio that we were providing. So we did a few things on this floor. As you can see, we kind of reduced some of the retail footprint and we added parking along Pearl Street. That is something that we still have to meet with traffic and traffic management and make sure that they're good with that. But that is an opportunity where we added some parking, as well as on the floor below this. So if you go to the one, we did increase the footprint of the building at this basement level to get more parking. We were previously kind of keeping it to the line of the building, but we've actually extended beyond so that we're utilizing our entire site. And that gave us additional parking spaces. So now our ratio is a little bit better than it was the last time that we presented. Besides those 2 changes for the parking and then just the adjustment of the plaza, there isn't much to change on that as far as that first floor level. I did want to point out that we have a really strong retail partner on this project, and our client has told us that they're really excited about how they're going to activate this courtyard space. So we aren't really worried about that being utilized well by people in the building and just in the community. It is sort of a public space that gets added to that streetscape. The other piece that we developed were the elevations and those. Thanks, Belkis, for showing those. And because of the timing on how we had to, send it in, we didn't have time to get it in earlier, but we were hoping to get some feedback as we're developing these from you today, so that we can continue to develop those as we come towards a final recommendation from you. But these are just our, our initial sort of interpretation of how we want to develop these elevations. So material palette really is sort of a two tones of brick. So there's a dark gray, black brick, and a red brick. And then the rest of the material is storefront, and then the solid panels are either a smooth concrete panel or sort of I want to call it textured, but it's more like a curtain kind of a pattern on a concrete panel, precast. So that's kind of our material palette. As you can see, we've developed, that's just so you get a sense of what that is. So it has a little bit of a softer feel as a precast panel. And so that's the mix of that with the smooth panel as well as the two colors of brick. The red brick obviously lends itself well to things across the street as well as the rest of the neighborhood to the north. And then with the interventions of the color, I think we were trying to again bring different scales to different pieces of the project, as well as kind of make that gateway piece like we talked about with the 14-story building kind of really having a nice presence on the corner. We have, as we're showing, lots of sort of exterior balconies and things like that for the residents, and different unit types throughout the building. So we have apartments from 3, 4, 5-story, 5 bedrooms to sort of smaller townhome style units that are further north, which again lends itself well to the neighborhood. That's really all we wanted to present today, and happy to answer questions and hear some feedback.
Thank you. Keone, I'll put you on the spot first.
Actually, like to hear what the other.
Okay.
I think, at the last meeting, it was one more positive voices. I think it'd be better to hear some of the other voices before I say.
Speaking of hearing voices, could you speak into the microphone?
Yeah, I just said I'd like to hear what you have to say, Pasquale, or Tim for that matter, who's near you, rather than set a tone and sort of influence what might be said.
Could you show us the renderings down Pearl Street?
So it's an elevation.
Would be this.
So this is Pearl Street, so this faces that alley, and then beyond the alley are, I think, lower density residential building typology. And then to the left is Lena here, and then to the right is East Norwich.
On that one site plan, you showed stacked parking. Is that at grade?
Yes.
I had a question about that actually before. So is that some sort of preferred parking like employees? That couldn't be convenience parking if you blocked in, so it's gotta have to be for
We
employees.
would assign it to the residential, and we would give it to the same unit, so then they can kind of.
Okay, so you're seeking a variance for that because that's not allowed in that area, if I remember correctly.
We have done it previously, so I believe it is allowed as long as it's not for commercial use. But it's been a while since we've used that, so.
Stack parking is allowable in the area for residential. Not the.
Oh, okay, so it's being assigned to the resident.
Yes.
Typically seen on.
Yeah, you don't have any perspective renderings of it, coming down that alley, do you?
Perspective?
Yeah.
No, we do not. We haven't had the time.
Do you have a section through the building and the parking lot and the adjacent?
No, are you trying to get a sense of the grade between the,
I'm trying to get a sense of the quality of that space with that stacked parking along that alley.
oh, I see. No, we don't have anything showing that. But it would be to the right hand side of that elevation, kind of.
Is it in that EF1 area?
Basically right there.
And it has
yes.
a roof over it? Is that what I'm seeing? Is there?
No. Is there a roof?
Those.
There's a roof over it.
It's my understanding that the surface spaces along the alley, do have a little roof over that. Oh, is that?
Yeah, that's
Sorry.
So that's what that gray, what is that? It looks like a gate that's coming down, like the corrugated gate. What's the gray part that's,
Oh, that's a screen, so,
no, the dark gray, like,
yeah, that is corrugated screening. Basically, we felt the scale of that podium is so tall that we wanted to bring the scale down. So we have to screening up down, to bring it down to about 8 feet or 9 feet.
He needs to be sworn in. and
Oh,
he's gonna use
I-
it.
He was sworn in, actually. It was.
It was basically- Remind me, what are the council variances you're seeking?
The council variance is technically the use variance, which is residential, on the
Residential
first floor.
first.
Right, and then the area variances are the height and parking.
And residential, of course, first floor just comes to Norwich end of the building.
Exactly.
It's sort of, which is residential now.
Which is existing, but because we're building it new, we have to get a variance.
in the parking, I know you put in there the 0.4, and I was the one that was big on the parking. That's not, and so I'm assuming you're getting really more to be below 0.375 because you have to conclude the commercial in there. I mean, I would be interested in understanding that part. Now, I am more lenient to say, hey, the commercial, needed other than 5 or whatever per, that there's employee parking or some amount there. But to me, it's interested to just kind of understand that as it relates to the commercial to the residential.
Yeah, we can provide you when we come back next week with exact parking counts, at least as exact as we can be at this point.
At this point, yeah. But our goal is, because the plan recommendation, the code is 0.5, but the recommendation is 0.375. So we're trying to be in compliance with at least the plan recommendation, which is 0.375 for residential.
And that's generally I think the 0.375, I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of work that went into that thought. That's a fairly low, that meeting that on the residential side.
Yes.
Personally, I have more flexibility on the commercial side because
And then
recognizing.
we're looking at the it's more on the commercial, right? Yeah.
And where are you on the residential side?
We are at the 0.375 on the residential, and the variance that we're seeking will predominantly be, commercial, few spaces for the commercial.
I appreciate the fact that you took that to heart and really, improved the parking ratio personally. I was wondering, have you had any more opportunity to look at alternate modes of transportation, bicycle parking, scooters, those types of things that are permitted on campus? Obviously, this will be a campus-based building. Have you made any type of areas that would accommodate those uses?
So good point. Actually, I know we are providing the bike parking that's required, but I think as we develop our streetscape along Lane and High, we will add some additional bike parking spaces that are more convenient to the retail spaces directly, because I feel like that's likely what students will use to get to those spaces more than driving. And even maybe within that plaza space, we would be able to add some parking for bikes to the.
And any secure bike parking within the garage
Within
itself,
the-
that might be a good opportunity for residents.
I also think it'd be helpful, I know you talked about moving it back, the building back of getting that streetscape, especially at the corner, but kind of dimensioning from back curb to building, what that dimension is with, not just on your spot, like the setback doesn't really matter if there's a huge amount of right of way, just kind of what that distance is for safe pedestrian travel, because this is obviously a busy area and understanding that.
Will the roof be occupied?
So the roof, what you're seeing, the building, that is sort of an indoor amenity space, and there will be an outdoor deck at that level, yes.
that wraps around that entire tower piece?
No, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be the entire rooftop. We have to work through egress and loading and what we can actually do up there with what we have in terms of egress, but so I don't think it'll be the entire space. We haven't worked all that out yet.
So one thing that strikes me is, there was a comment last time, I think, that recognizing that the massing that you brought, it really was designed, it was really kind of a massing study. But they all look kind of different, which I didn't really find off-putting, if you may recall. But this one, it's interesting that it's beginning to look like it's a family of buildings that are all kind of speaking the same language. The corner's a bit different, which is fine, but that's, I mean, I think you clearly took someone's comments to heart, you know, between now and then. So you mentioned that the person that you're coordinating with from a retail standpoint, you're confident that you can activate the courtyard, which you're, you know, convinces is in the right spot. So without naming names, I mean, what use do you intend that retail that is adjacent? Do you have any idea what type of retail that might be?
We're still working on merchandising it, but we would expect some restaurant tenants in that courtyard. It's important to us to activate that, have some outdoor seating and, you know, create some energy in that courtyard. And we see it kind of as an area of refuge as you come down high there. And so you can have, you know, just some public hardscape seating spaces, but then you have the activity from the restaurant space, the courtyard. In addition to kind of a food type user, we would expect some neighborhood services. And then maybe even some like clothing retail. So we don't have any too early to have commitments at this point. But that's kind of our vision.
Yeah, there are entrances on that side.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
And so that's really more of a hardscape courtyard that you're, like on the one, it shows it as green and it's not grass there.
Yeah.
I've got another question because I'm going to forget. What is this? What's that right there? That's not retail, as I recall from your plan.
It's just a wall. That's about it.
Yeah, that's
What?
just actually.
That's about it, parking space.
Oh.
It kind of caps the,
Okay.
yeah, it's just a gap for the courtyard space and on the other side of it is the park.
So this is residential here, right?
Yes.
So will there be doors facing the courtyard? Or is that back of the building from they face Norwich, they know Norwich?
Their front doors would be on Norwich, correct? But they probably will have doors in the back as well.
You mentioned a pocket park kind of concept, so courtyard. How does that square with the observation that was made previously that the courtyard may not be able to support trees of any kind of
Yeah, when I say pocket park, I don't mean a green space. I guess I mean more of a
hard
as a hardscape pocket park. Yeah.
Well, you could have trees as long as you, because I was in Pittsburgh a month or two ago and we were downtown and walking, I don't know what street it was, but walking next to streets going down and there's a garage and a park or a plaza of huge trees. You could literally see that all of them corresponded to the building columns. Every time there was a tree, it was right above. So if you did that and you put a big, huge planter on that, you technically could. I mean, it would get expensive in a hurry, but you technically could do it. So
You could, just not.
I think we need to see more information on Pearl Street, especially from the pedestrian point of view.
Yeah, one of the things actually,
Pardon?
sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
One of the things we have done along that street, and it may not be as clear in this plan, the line, but the building does step back quite a bit along Pearl, so we have given a lot of relief. Yeah, you can probably see it a little bit easier there. So we do have, it varies anywhere between a few feet to almost 10 feet setback from Pearl. So it does have a little bit more.
But there is no pedestrian interaction with the uses along the alley.
Correct. I mean, it is the vehicular access to the garage from Pearl. But the pedestrian access to the building is mostly from, I would say, Norwich, High, and Lane.
I've got another question. Can you go back to the plan or So in the middle of, stop, go back one, there you go, thank you. So the amenity deck that's in the middle, what level is that on?
That one is at the top of the 7-story building.
So,
I mean, it's in the 7-story building, it's on the top of the parking deck, so that's the 2nd story.
7th floor.
okay, so it's got 5 floors that are coming up,
Yes,
and this is an indoor space? Or it's a,
yeah, that is indoor space.
okay.
The light is the outdoor.
I'm just worried it's gonna be dark. I mean, in the wintertime, it's cold and crappy here and no one's really gonna care, but even in the summertime, I'm just curious if you did a quick sun study to see how much. I'm sure that, you know, maybe, I'm guessing from here up from between, I don't know, 10 and 2 is probably gonna be sunny. I'm just curious at what point it's in shade, so I'm just curious.
What, do you know the dimensions on that?
It's roughly about 35 feet by 110 or 20 feet long.
I'm sorry?
It's about 35 feet wide by about 110 or 20 feet long, so.
So there will not be any individual apartment access to it. There's a door off the interior amenity that's the only way in and out of it, I assume?
For the amenity deck itself.
Right, so you can't like come out of your apartment onto the deck. You got to go through the, I'm just curious. I mean,
Yeah, we have done that previously on other projects. We just haven't worked through that yet. on
Yeah,
this
so
one.
we haven't really worked through it. We see that area as kind of a quieter amenity space, having soft seating and areas to go out there and study or read or whatever it is. The amenity up on the roof we see as more active, gets more sunshine, obviously. So this is kind of a quieter, you know, in the heat of summer, refuge from the sun, but still be outside. That's our vision for this.
okay.
How does your unit count compare to the kind of as of right 640 scheme, you know?
Exactly.
Sorry, I interrupted comparing.
No.
My question would be, the connection to the residential building, the 2-story in there. I'm not saying I'm against it, I don't know, you know, I'm curious as to, you guys have maintained that connection and you're trying to, like, there's a part of me that's, if there was a softer connection than just that wall and connection, I think, you know, that may work better, or there's a pedestrian path through there. Is there a reason you're really focused on that building beginning? I think even last week or last month, there was someone who brought up this, what if you just left what was there? Like, why, you know, change on the Norwich side? So I'm just interested in that connection.
Yeah, the connection is not so much, I guess, the way we're looking at it. We really wanted to kind of create a cap to that courtyard space that we're creating. Just so visually it has kind of like a focal point, and as I said, as we develop that courtyard, that back wall rubbing in some more attention.
But I mean, it's like that parking has the roof there. It's, I mean, you could do something that's not like covered there, that like is more of a terminus than just the wall. It looks like it, to me, like we're trying, is there a pedestrian path between there that's inside or no?
No,
No.
not really.
There's the double stack parking,
it's-
the other stuff in the wall.
Looks like a wonderful opportunity for public art, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's a good point, that we can explore a little bit about what that quality needs to be and how that could be more of a focal for that courtyard.
I mean, I don't know that you want pedestrians to be able to walk through, but you know, if there was a 5-foot path that, you know, hid most of it, and there, like, I think it's worth exploring
Yeah.
what that terminus really is.
Could you show us a unit breakout? What's your unit mix? How many?
Oh, how many?
Yes, how many and of what, how many of what type of bedroom count?
I don't have that.
Yeah,
But we can
come back
We
with
can
it.
go back with that, yeah. We have, like I said, a mix of all kinds of units in there,
Right, I want to know the specifics.
yeah.
So you're just going after a student market?
We
Because I
have
hadn't heard of
to students, we expect a lot of students given the location, but we can't restrict to students, so. it would-
Well, you do restrict to students based on your bedroom count in the unit.
We have a mix of all of the bedroom types, but
That's why I'm asking. So tell me what the mix is.
yeah, we'll bring that back at the next
Okay.
meeting.
Because with the major expansion of the hospital, we're gonna have a lot more young professionals coming in the area, which is an opportunity to the development community, but at the same time, with history, the type of demographics of the area changes over decades. And if we don't have the opportunity to change those units to accommodate a different demographic, then we're stuck. We being the community, the developer probably sells the project. And then to go back to Keone's question, what the amount of square footage, is there a variance to increase that based? So all you're doing is just redistributing it? Is that?
The variance is for the height and the parking. Yeah,
It's an FAR.
I don't think we have any.
One, so there's no
Okay.
specific, it's just the height.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe the variance, I mean, there is no FR, AR in ones. So the way to sort of evaluate whether or not the variance on the height is reasonable is to compare it against a kind of as right scheme, if you will, right? So how many units and how many beds can you get on the 6 stories? Kind of one of the versions you brought to us was sort of 6-story scheme across the site. You can get a X number of beds, X number of dwelling units. So how many beds and how many dwelling units did you have in that compared to this? Because I think the general sort of, or at least me, sort of, I'm willing to accept the height that pushes the bulk to the south against Lane, but not necessarily going to give you a bonus, the number of units of beds. It sort of has to wash out about the same in the end, right? Like if a 6-story as right scheme gives you, 200 dwelling units and 600 beds or whatever the hell it is, then this scheme gets you about that, right? You don't end up with 300 units, 800 beds. So I think I'd like to see that. I mean, I think I guess on the variance end, to me, with regard to the height, that's the thing I'm interested in terms of being able to support the height variance. I'm willing to live with the height on Lane because it pulls it away from the neighborhood to the north. And I think that's a reasonable compromise and better than getting a 6-story building that runs from Lane to Norwich the whole length. I think honestly, the parking variance, I'm good with less parking. I mean, I think pushing the edges of the parking garage out to the edge of the site is going to create some challenges constructionally in terms of, you're going to waterproof the deck, you're going to limit opportunities for landscaping. The whole thing is just going to get a lot more complicated. So I personally am totally not convinced by the double stack parking at Pearl. So I would personally live with a lesser parking ratio. I'd live with less for the residential units. I'd live with less for commercial. If you could reduce it enough that you can get it out from under the courtyard and preserve the existing building on Norwich, all the better. Going to staff's comment about, we get it, right? You're not going to preserve all the buildings on the site, but can you do a little better than just getting the corner building at Norwich?
But that's even in their plans.
Yeah, but I mean, so do something, right? I mean, well, I guess it's not in their plan, but like, the way you perceive the block, right? Like, currently like if you could preserve the building kind of on Norwich behind the corner, you would start to at least have a little bit more coherent urban fabric that tied into the early industry. And then, you know, to the points other people have made, that's not great and it's not doing you anything good. And, you know, this is sort of a little bit of an appendix at this point that's not, you know, well resolved even. Third variance. Oh, yeah, residential first floor. I mean, residential first floor is fine. Not my business to tell you how to do your business. That's going to be tough for retail. It's always going to be in shadow, so you're, you know, it's not going to be the greatest food service spaces. You want to see how tough a market it is, just go down to Gateway, look at those interior plaza areas. They struggled to do stuff with them. You know, is it going to be better as residential? Not necessarily, but you know, have to think about that. I mean, I think a good comment was made about how you terminate the end of this. Is that great? Is it better if you go through some thinking? I think but I think if you can answer kind of the basic zoning questions, the zoning approach seems more or less reasonable to me. I think the challenges you're going to have is when you start to translate from what you showed us last month into something that starts to become building. Obviously, last month, the monochrome black and white drawings were less specific, which made them more favorable. And now as you start to go into real materials and mineral systems, we're starting to see the challenges. The obvious challenge, I think, is, you know, the scheme from last month, you could kind of play that game where, you know, sleight of hand, where 14 stories look like 7 as you elongate the units. Here you're going to storefront and cantilever balconies, and now it's obviously 14 stories, and it's sort of more cellular. And honestly, it's not that different from those few dorms down on Lane, and I do not say that as a compliment. It's just, you know, it's starting to look real, but also kind of banal. And so the zoning strategy is okay, but now as we start to get into the real building design, it certainly is not necessarily living up to the charge that KB put in front of you last month to do something interesting and significant and unique for the site, right? Like to the south on Lane, I see individual windows. I get it, they're cheaper than purple, but you get a pretty banal looking facade. It starts to look like, you know, if OSU did another one of those dorms and now and decided to build it on that corner. So I think you got a little bit of work to do. I'm not sure I love the cantilever balconies. Seems like a great opportunity to throw red solo cups off the 14th floor to people below. Make a great party tower. Sure.
And I think just one comment on that. So we control behavior through our leases. So obviously a concern of any kind.
Every landlord in the neighborhood says that. I've yet to see a landlord.
We're happy to commit to it. It's something that we do across our portfolio. So.
Let me say that I'm really pleased to hear Keone bring up the preservation element and to see that it remains in the staff recommendations. And frankly, would be interested in your viewpoint on that at this stage of the development's plan.
We did look at the building on Norwich, and because of, again, it was that balance between adding, you know, the additional parking that we get below grade, that we would have to completely change the footprint of that below grade level. And we would lose more parking if we tried to keep the existing building on Norwich. So that was, you know, there would, I guess, conflicting feedback in the sense that you wanted better parking ratios as well, so we couldn't do both. So we kind of took the call that a new building, it also from like a standpoint of the back, this building is definitely a Norwich facing building. The back of the building now is going to be sort of a pretty important facade for the courtyard space, and it was never really designed to be a back and front facing building. So we weren't sure that that would really accommodate the new use for that area and both sides of it. So we thought that it would be better if we just designed a building that was in fact designed to be in that space with a front and a back entrance kind of a feature. And then got the additional parking at the grade below. It just simplifies the construction and everything else as well. So that was how we kind of took that to show what we're showing today.
I guess, I'll say, I think to Gilny's point, and that building, like, there is a way to screen the back of those buildings if you've kept them. And, I think the question about the density, I think you answered my question probably 2 or 3 meetings ago, hey, we go higher, we need more density because it costs more. They're gonna come back and say, this is more dense than what was at 6 stories. So we should be, address that this is way more dense, than what it was before, because the cost of building goes up. And so, and when we asked that, when we said, at 6 stories, we were getting some preservation. So I think there is some step to say, hey, look at that Norwich, if there's a preservation on that side, screen in the courtyard. I'm supportive of a little bit more density than what was there before. That doesn't mean if it was 500 and now we're 50% greater and it's 700. I think we've always said it's been pretty crystal clear, you get something for that additional density. Right now, we're not really getting more because there's no preservation, and we've talked about that at length, and I think, but there's something about keeping Norwich screening that could be worked. I'm not against a strict line that there's no more increased intensity.
That's fair. Yeah, you're absolutely right. The square foot cost in a 14-story reinforced concrete tower compared to a 2-story podium with a bunch of lightwood twigs on top of it, they deserve something for that. I'm okay.
But I'd like you to look at Norwich again and say, hey, could we screen that? What if we kept those, made those look a little nicer? There's some fabric that's kept there. And that's why I was asking about the connection. Like, is there something that we keep going? Because you're not getting that much more density out of that building. You might get, I don't know if you're getting 10 more beds or what. It's not a density driver with what you're doing.
Right.
So I think there's a way to come to some agreement that, and still makes that courtyard a very attractive piece.
I'm not on board with that, and I'll tell you why. I'm just concerned that when you say screen it, this is it. At the end of the day, this is gonna be a very urban courtyard. It is. So I don't know if it's a building that was never intended to be, to populate the back of it. I don't know exactly what you could do about it. I look at it's an okay 2-story brick building. It's certainly, in my view, it's not spectacular at all. So, the whole garage beneath is a whole nother angle to it. As it relates to this is assuming you did away with it. I would consider actually wrapping the residential around where you've got that double space parking or double stack parking in the back. I think having doors facing Pearl Alley is not a bad thing. So, and if that allows you to take density out of something else, then, that wouldn't break my heart.
And that's what we've been encouraging along Pearl, south of 15th, north of 15th.
The other thing you might consider doing is there a way, this may not work, I should function, say, right, well, you keep this building, here's where you're parking at, but maybe this becomes residential here. So you got residential here, face to the alley. We got, instead of having this, what maybe dead retail here, could there be more residential that does this? So you've got doors that actually are, that you've got front doors that face the end of the alley, at the end of the plaza rather.
Yeah, again, some of these attempts were more to increase the parking ratio. So I guess my question would be, if the parking ratio gets a little bit worse than what we talked about today, is that
not going to bother me at all?
Okay.
I think you're probably going to get different opinions on this board, but I'm with Carrie. I would prefer a building that meets the urban surroundings in a better manner with less parking spaces.
But that ain't, I know it is complicated, but that goes into what that increased density is. If that increased density is a 50% increase, and that's what's driving the parking ratio so low, there's a different answer to that. You know, it's not like 0.375 is the magic and someone calculated that it's gonna work and 0.35 isn't. Like, again, but that was a way, and because I was involved in through the whole, that was a way that was defining density as well.
Yeah.
Right,
Well,
and so I just don't think it's something that's so likely that I would be like, hey, it's 0.25 doesn't matter, because I think Columbus still needs parking. I mean, we can say, like, more than 25% of the kids have cars, right? And you do want to plan for the, you shouldn't just build it and then let it come obsolete. I'm not that way either. But all these interplay into what's the increased density, how that affects parking, the keeping of the preservation buildings. There's not like just one straight answer in my mind for all of those.
Well, I think to your point, Brian, part of it is sort of showing the map.
Yeah.
I mean, on the project at King and High, one of the things, it was a long process, we weren't, but one of the things they did was they did show unit counts and bed counts, parking counts, as they went through the iterations. So I think, you know, you're not doing yourself any favors by not showing the math. You'd probably be better off showing it so you can make the case for what you're trying to do.
Yeah, we can definitely come back with all of the numbers that you're asking for. We can take a look at how we want to potentially wrap that residential and following. The parking pressure is a little bit less than what we maybe expected.
Does the board have any other new comments that we haven't touched on?
I would come armed for bear for KB next time if she's back as why the courtyard is here and your thesis on the building design. Should we accept?
And she also lives down the street.
I mean, it's Carrie's right, and I don't love it either, honestly. I mean, I'm sort of sympathetic to the zoning argument. I'm completely unsympathetic to the aesthetic of the building as it currently stands. I mean, there is no way I would prove that.
Could you repeat the last thing you said? You would not approve what?
I said I'm sympathetic to the zoning argument. I'm unsympathetic to the aesthetic of the building as currently shown. There's no way I'm.
Yeah. Thank you.
Are any members from the public that wanted to say
Oh, yeah.
anything?
You know, I didn't have because I recognized the faces and didn't see anyone, so I purposely didn't ask.
Just for clarification, you have filed the variances with the city.
City staff.
This is just a question in terms of my role also on the University Area Commission, that the sense of when those would be coming to us.
Yes,
Thank
probably
you.
next month.
I think typically, Tim, the Pasquale rule has been in play on this board, which is we generally reserve judgment until the UAC has expressed an opinion.
To correct you, that's the Dick Talbot rule.
Okay.
And that was because the meetings would go 4, 5, 6 hours long. And we were not ready to vote, so that's why.
But we could continue to present to you while the variance is in process, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Just because we don't know.
I think we're parallel to the UAC, and we are certainly not beholden by their judgment, but I think just as a matter of courtesy and precedent, we'd like them sort of express it first, take a vote first.
Yeah, sorry, just before we leave, can you give us any direct feedback on the facade so that we know?
I mean, look, all our architects, you can see the difference between what you did last month and this. I mean, you played a nice game with scale, the way you did it a month ago. And you were able, through the articulation of the openings, to make the scale of the building read differently from where you are. And again, where you are now, because it's a reflection of the kind of systems you're using on the storefront, but that's the problem. So you need to find a way to sort of play that game and get the scale so that it reads in a manner that is a little more like it was a month ago, recognizing that you're now dealing with real materials. And I think the big thing I can go either way. If you want to make the whole thing look like it's one thing, or if you want to make it look like several things, whatever. But I think the big thing for you is the question scale, right? So, here, if you look at the tower on Main 5, the game was the sections are 2 and 3 stories, and it was kind of nicely done, right? You could get it to kind of read in that manner, and it sort of brought the scale of everything down. And I don't think it necessarily hurt that there was a bit of difference between mid-rise and high-rise. Here, what you've done is you've sort of standardized the facades and things. There's 2 or 3 different languages. There's the brick punch openings. There's the precast, the storefront, and then there's the precast and cantilever balconies. And it's sort of the problem maybe with doing that is where you had at least the impression of several different buildings that brought down the overall scale. Now it starts to read all as one thing that steps up. But more importantly, the scale, the legibility of each individual floor is evident in a way that there was ambiguity last. And so the net result is we get a pretty standard 14-story tower with cantilever balconies and fairly small openings, and it's not coming across as well as it could and as well as it ought to. And I'm being not that gentle, but KB is going to be way less gentle. It's a tough problem, right? I get it. I think it comes with the site. You guys have picked probably the most significant and prominent site in the university district. And so, it comes with territory. And the board was put in place in the zoning code to sort of, help ensure that the overall fabric of the district is not eroded, and that the developments were sort of positive. And so it's not an easy problem, and I'm sympathetic, particularly as we deal with construction prices right now. Fortunately for me, that's your problem.
Thank you.
Great, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
And I believe that moves us to the staff approved items.
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Fine. Anything extraordinary?
We're starting to get some more graphics cases, such as the Chili's wall sign.
Is that Chili's as in the chain?
Yes, yes, it's Chili Express. So I'm not sure the difference there, but a few just refaces of existing signs. But again, all of the signs have been squarely within the guidelines. So I felt comfortable doing these separate approvals, and then we've seen a lot of roof replacements, asphalt shingle for asphalt shingle. So,
Well, at least they're putting something in there. I just looked up, that's 1400 North High Common. It's been like empty since
Yes.
the building was built.
yeah.
Harry, now make a motion, I guess, to approve staff approved application.
You are making a motion?
Yeah.
Then I'll second it.
Thank you. So motion and second, Mr. Fleming.
Yes.
Mr. Grado.
Yes.
Ms. Gunzelman.
Yes.
Mr. Reed.
Yes.
Mr. Samansky.
Yes.
Mr. Supler.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That was the last agenda item.
Can I move for adjournment?
Yes.
I move for adjournment.
We're adjourned.
Cameras off, microphone off.
Stop.